Fanatec GT World Challenge is a global sports car series racing some of the fastest and most advanced GT cars in the world. Across the globe, fans and drivers alike converge on the greatest circuits on the globe to participate and watch exciting sprint and endurance racing. In the kudos title, Assetto Corsa Competizione, motorsports fans have been able to race at many of those circuits. But for those in the U.S., it's been a long wait to see the familiar tracks of Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Now in this special preview event, Assetto Corsa Competizione and SRO America present Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Circuit of the Americas, and Watkins Glen International as part of the American DLC releasing on June 30th. Hi everybody, Kyle Heyer, joined by DJ Clark, voice of the public address system for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. DJ, welcome. In just a moment, we'll kick off the first of 3 races in this preview event.
Yes, indeed we will, Kyle. And these 3 courses that are being brought to ACC, absolutely exciting, each and every one of them more fantastic than the last. But we kick things off here at the famed Brickyard. That's right, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway making its debut here on Assetto Corsa Competizione. And it is going to be fantastic to see these cars running around here on the sim, just as they will be doing in real life in October for the 8 hours of Indianapolis.
And in just a couple of weeks for Watkins Glen, 3 20-minute races with some names that you've heard of: Dan Suzuki, Jardier, and many, many more. 3 20-minute races with a couple qualifyings to set the grid for each. Coming up here in just a moment, we'll kick things off with the race at Indianapolis. Going racing for the 2022 ACC America DLC preview event from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a part of a 3-track pack for Assetto Corsa Competizione, a brand new DLC with American cars and American tracks. 3 races coming to you live. Green flag, and we're racing. Already down towards turn number 1, we're 2 abreast with 2 Lamborghinis side by side.
A big poke out there for Vasquez as he tries to go down into the corner there. The Lambo's going side by side, shutting the door around the outside is Simone, and fighting back here is Sherritt. We are side by side still for the lead of this race, Kyle.
Yeah, Giorgio's going to tuck in line. That's the Zalus Motorsports 191. A little bit of contact there as the K-Pax car and the Zalus car get together. Again, real American liveries with some of the Twitch and YouTube influencers you're familiar with. Right behind is one of the Kalo and DXTT Racing Mercedes AMG. Some contact there as Kevin Bohm sees it all out the windshield.
Yeah, Kevin Bohm sitting back here in 6th place, trying to just pick up a little bit of the pieces of these scraps as they run up ahead of them. Bohm trailing up behind, trying to see what he can do. Losing a little bit out, it has to be said, over Zach Patterson going down there, but Patterson's going to send a big dive into the left-hander.
Really solid stuff. Again, Zach Patterson running the Racer's Edge Motorsports number 93 Acura NSX GT3 Evo, like we've seen in the real world. And again, all these cars representative of some of our American teams and cars. And heading down towards turn number 11 to complete our first lap.
Yes, our first lap here in this 20-minute event at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We continue to focus on Patterson. Whoa, a little bit of a contact there with the BMW behind.
Oh, a little bit dicey there as they come up onto the front straightaway to complete the first lap. And Jordan will be the first driver across the line in the number 1 K-Pax car. Just like the real world, we see that K-Pax Lamborghini out front quite a bit. Lots of shuffling behind. Deeper in the field, you see a couple U.S. Racetronics cars, a couple Ian Lacey Racing Aston Martins. Here comes, I think one of those is going to be, looks like Dan Suzuki going to pop out of line.
Yeah, Suzuki was popping out of line there for a second, trying to see if he could get anything to go, but opting not to make the move here, as we know, go through the infield section in the first part of this lap. You see Suzuki running wide there at the exit of the corner. That's going to throw him off a little bit as he tries to close back in on the back of this little pack being led by Kevin Bohm. Big off in front there for the 93.
Yeah, there goes Zach Patterson, and around the outside now comes the number 39 of Ben McConnell, who is running in the ST Racing BMW. And from ST Racing, now joining us here in the booth is Samantha Tan. Samantha, we're watching some great racing here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Assetto Corsa Competizione and watching a virtual representation of your ST Racing BMW. First of all, welcome aboard, and this is a really exciting event and very, very cool that we now get to bring American content to Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's just super cool to see both of our cars on track right now.
It is really, really neat. Ben McConnell is cosplaying ST Racing driver right now. And Samantha, Indianapolis Motor Speedway is one of the coolest facilities we get to go to in SRO America competition. How excited are you to compete in the Indianapolis 8-hour this season? And is it something you think that you and your team are capable of going out there and winning?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've had some pretty good successes there in the past. We did compete in the 8-hour, I believe, in 2020. I lost first place by 6 seconds, so we're coming back with some lots of determination to put the car on the top step this time.
Yeah, that's really exciting. This livery, tell me about the paint scheme on this car, because it certainly has taken a lot of people and really impressed them. It looks great. It's got, the purple and blue and the orange kind of all tied in, but where did that come from? And it just looks so good, so I have to know the story behind it.
For sure. I mean, when I started our team back in 2017, obviously that came with the perk of getting to choose my own livery, and we always knew we wanted to do something different, so we designed kind of an homage to the BMW R cars, and it started really with the M4 GT4 Starry Night, obviously inspired by Van Gogh, and then it evolved into these two new GT3 car liveries, one of them being inspired by the California sunsets, which is why it's pink and purple in the 38 car. But yeah, really just an evolution of the iconic Starry Night livery that we had for a few years.
Hey Sam, DJ Clark here, and wanted to ask you about just how everything's going over the course of the season, and how you're feeling about everything now that we're about halfway through.
For sure. Unfortunately, didn't have the best of weekends at VIR. Was unfortunately involved in a racing incident in the first 15 minutes of race 1, even though we showed really great pace at the beginning of the weekend, so it was just unfortunate. But it's always great to be back with the SRO family. I've been competing in the series for, since 2015. Came up through touring car all the way into GT4 and now in GT3 for the first time this year, but feeling pretty good. Car's great. We're looking forward to the next event.
Well, speaking of that next event, talk to me about Watkins Glen. Obviously, we're going to be headed there in about 40 minutes time here on the sim, but we're headed there in real life in about 3 weeks. And talk to me about level of anticipation and all of that.
Yeah, again, I mean, I've never been to Watkins Glen, so maybe I'll be hopping on ACC to learn the track. But we're looking forward to it. Obviously, with such a unfortunately disappointing weekend at VIR, we're hoping to come back even stronger at Watkins Glen.
Well, okay, so having never run it, I mean, talk to me about the regimen of a driver to prepare for a track that you've never run at before in real life. What do you do to prepare?
Yeah, personally, if I have, time, I'll sit on the sim and try to learn as much as I can. I mean, these tracks are now so realistic on all these racing games. And if I don't, I'll probably just watch YouTube videos if I've never been to the track before.
Well, all right. That's exactly how I prepare for commentary on it, so I'm glad we're at least in a little bit of the same boat there. I love that. Well, talking about this release of the pack here and all of that, I mean, as an American racing driver, talk to me what it means to be able to see some of these circuits coming to the sim here, and then we get a little bit of American representation on ACC.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I'm Canadian, but to have to see all these new North American tracks being added to the DLC, it's awesome to see. And again, just a great opportunity for everybody who hasn't been to these tracks to try them out. And obviously, drive the ST Racing cars if you want to.
We can't recommend them enough. We already talked about that beautiful, beautiful livery around there. And yeah, Kyle, I throw it back to you, my friend.
Yeah, Samantha, thanks so much again for joining us. And tell me a little bit more about the simulator, because I know that for some drivers, the simulator and maybe Assetto Corsa Competizione is a big part of their training. Is that something that you personally have subscribed to, or is that something that maybe is down the road a little bit that you will do more now that there's some American track options here in Assetto Corsa Competizione?
Yeah, so to be completely honest, I am a terrible sim racer.
Me too.
Something about, I guess, going from driving race cars for the past 8 years into a sim where you kind of lose the feeling of all the G-forces is something I still have to get used to. It's almost like it's almost more mentally tiring for me to do sim racing because my brain is trying to make up for all of the lack of feeling you know? But I think it's a great tool to take advantage of. Obviously, it's probably the cheapest way to gain any kind of like track time, seat time. And yeah, just awesome.
Yeah, of course, I know that, a lot of drivers talk about the lack of the seat of the pants feeling that might, hold them back from really learning a ton about the car's handling. What I do hear a lot, though, is that it can potentially shorten the learning curve in terms of just spotting things on track that you can use as braking markers or that sort of thing. And I mentioned to DJ pre-race, pre-broadcast, that even the A-frame sponsor boards here in Assetto Corsa Competizione are placed exactly where they would be, which I think is fascinating here. So maybe there's some value there just from understanding, as we see a little bit of argy-bargy here between a couple of the Mercedes, maybe just seeing where the track goes if it's someplace you've never been, like Watkins Glen, for example.
For sure, yeah. And I'm actually headed to the 24-hour spa later in July, and I've never been to the track before, so I did hop on Racing Simulator to learn that track, and it was extremely helpful.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Of course, SRO being sort of a global organization where you've got racing accessible all over the world in homologated GT3 cars. That's got to be really neat that you can take a car that that competes in one country and fly it somewhere else and compete with it somewhere else. And how excited are you to compete in the Spot 24?
Oh, I'm extremely, extremely excited. It's an incredible opportunity to be part of the 65 car grid. A bit intimidating, to be honest, but it's one of the most famous endurance races in the world, and we come with a very competitive lineup, and I hope we do well.
I hope you do well too, Samantha. Hey, thanks for joining us, even for just a short stint here, and again, seeing some of your ST Racing cars on the racetrack for the first time in Assetto Corsa Competizione, and I think when you get a chance to test it out, I think you'll really find it fascinating. Of course, Watkins Glen is my home track. I've done plenty of laps around there, and it impressed me, so I hope it has the same effect.
Yeah, thank you. And a little shout out to Cameron, who's on camera right now, I believe. It's one of my esports drivers.
Yeah, Cameron Marno right now running 7th, moving forward. Samantha, thanks so much for your time, and enjoy. We'll see you later.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And Samantha Tan from ST Racing popping in for just a little bit there, DJ, and talked about some really cool things there, the Spot 24, and saying she's a terrible sim racer. Well, me too, but I think there are some things to be learned about the tracks that you're going to, places that you've never been. And she mentioned that she'd never been to Spa before, so what better place, what better opportunity to learn a new track than to jump on a sim where you can hit reset as many times as you need.
Exactly, and that's really one of the benefits that we see. Woo! As there is Cam doing a little bit of a nice over-under move there on Zach Patterson to be able to hold on to that 8th place position. And yeah, as you said, it can be very hard to make that transition from real life into the sim itself because you lose that seat of the pants feel of the car. But what you can learn is those braking zones, the feel of the track, where the corners lead, the relative acceleration and deceleration zones as everything works its way around. And so that's really what the benefit of these simulators are for real-life racing drivers today.
And right now, folks getting the opportunity to compete and show up off what they got. We're past halfway here, 8.5 minutes remaining in our first of 3 races. Indianapolis up first, then Circuit of the Americas, followed by the Glen. And Giorgio Simeone right now running out front of Bobby South by just about half a second. That gap continues to come down. Jordan Girard is 3rd. This car was leading early in the going, but got shuffled out. And not too far behind is Ben McConnell in the number 39 ST Racing car, and Maxime Betroulier in the number 8, which is the DXTT Racing 08 Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo.
Yes, indeed, as they now work their way out of the corners, trying to see what they're going to be able to do here. Doesn't look like Maxime's really going to be close enough to be able to get too much of a draft off that BMW up in front. And again, coming down here into the left-hander off of Hallman Way, it's a bit of a tricky braking zone. You've got to carry a decent amount of speed into the corner, and that really prevents you from launching a massive attack down into that area on the track.
Big slide there. Saw the hands busy. Maxime's virtual gloves going for a skate across the surface of the interior there, trying to gather it back up. And chasing Ben McConnell just up the road. A little bit further back. There are a couple battles to keep an eye on. How about this one? Cameron Martineau right in the middle of everything. Just ahead of him is the real-time racing car of Jardier. And to the inside, Zach Patterson in the Racer's Edge Motorsports Acura. But Jardier started last, up to 7th place in this climb.
Yeah, that's a very, very impressive run for Dardier, and kind of what we suspected he may do to begin with, just piecing his way up through the field. I think he's going to have a little bit of a hard time trying to be able to get the rest of that gap back up now with only about 6 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. But I got to tell you right here, some good battles continuing to rage all over this circuit. We watch Ben McConnell and Befoulier there continuing their little scrap. This has just gone back and forth really over the course of the last couple of laps.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about GT3 racing is that you get such a diversity in car advantage, right? I mean, of course, all the cars have their advantages and disadvantages, and they all sort of equalize out. The goal and the philosophy here is not equal performance, it's everyone's in a performance window. So that means that one car might be better in a straight line, the other better in the brakes, one car better in the corners, and one car might be better in longevity. So there's a lot of different ways that cars can have advantages over the others, but they all sort of equal out in the end, and that makes for some really awesome racing. And of course, these two, the BMW and the Mercedes-AMG, both front engine, rear wheel drive, but that's about where the similarities end. Mercedes, of course, is a front mid-engine layout with most of the engine behind the front axle.
Yes, it is. The BMW having that car a little bit differently proportioned. Thought there was going to be a little bit of a run there going down into the corner for Maxime, but thought better of it. And yeah, as you said, Kyle, everybody generating their speed at different courses at different points over the track. And that's what really makes GT racing so spectacular in that sense, is, as to steal your phrase, horses for courses. Different areas, different goes. Is here McConnell going very, very defensive down the front straightaway. Is Befoulier going to have a move down to the outside?
Wow, look at the outbraking from Befoulier, but can he stick on the outside, gets squeezed up onto the curbing? Still side-by-side through turn 2, door-to-door, Mercedes-AMG versus BMW here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Still side-by-side through turn 4, and can McConnell re-clear, but Befoulier almost just clears him.
Just able to get back on by Maxime. Now is going to have to wait a little bit to try to get a good attack later going. You see a later apex there into that long left-hander. Little dab of the brakes here to get it onto that right-hander before you get onto home and away. Let the car carry out as wide as possible. Now he's going to tuck it behind in the draft a little bit to see if that DXDT Racing Mercedes is going to have anything. Poking his nose to the inside, not going to find anything there.
Certainly not. Ooh. Nose to tail very, very close, and just behind, you'll notice the lurking CrowdStrike Racing by Riley Motorsports Mercedes-AMG. That is Kevin Bohm, competitor. Whoops, slip and slide for McConnell. Here comes Befoulier. He's passed and takes that one little opportunity and slip up from McConnell and takes the position away, moves up into 4th.
Well, and that just shows you the high level of competition here that we are experiencing today. Just that one little micro mistake like that, that is all that Befoulier needed to be able to get that Mercedes up and on by, and now he's going to find himself up into 4th place. Looking down here a little bit at a good run.
Down the front straightaway, and now in the slipstream perhaps is Kevin Bohm in that CrowdStrike Racing by Riley Motorsports Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. And the Mercedes-AMG has historically been the best in the slower, tighter sections, which we're about to head into here. And this is where Bohm might be able to find some advantage on the BMW in front.
Well, he's certainly going to try to a little bit. And the other thing here is for McConnell, he's just got to keep his mind focused, and that's not what he wanted to have happen. A strange little incident there for the 39, just losing it coming through the corner, and that's going to give Kevin Bohm the position.
Wow, look at Jardier, a huge slide, trying to come around the outside now in the number 43 real-time racing car. And Jardier will not be able to complete that pass, but setting one up in the Acura NSX GT3 Evo.
Yeah, this is all about that setup here for Jardier, as he's now going to get a nice helping of the draft off of McConnell. Takes a poke to the inside, down home and away. Not going to be able to get the move done there into the corner, but once again, just setting up. Don't be surprised if we see that real-time racing Acura make a big old move going down the main straight.
Left back to the right, and the Acura getting out cornered there just a little bit by the BMW, which has proven to be a fantastic race car. This new BMW GT3 is only a couple months old in North American competition, and it has already proven to be a very reliable and capable machine, and that is represented here in Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Yeah, it most certainly is. We've got more than a few of them out on the grid, and they were doing very well, as we also have a little bit of a battle here shaping up for the lead. Giorgio Simoni in that SRO Motorsports number 191 Lamborghini Huracan finding himself under assault from one of those BMWs we've been talking about.
Yeah, Simonini in the 191 being chased by Bobby South in the number 90. And very different proportions. We were just speaking about the BMW. But look at the Lamborghini, and the 90 almost jammed the nose down the inside. Bobby South thought better of it. The Lamborghini with that very straight roofline from the side, just that classic wedge supercar shape. The BMW a little bit more sedan-like, but very different cars competing at very similar performance levels right now. Simonini and South lead the way. 4.5 seconds back to the next driver on the podium. That's Jordan Sherratt.
It is indeed, and it should be about a minute left to go here, which means we should be seeing the white flag as Simonini crosses the start-finish line this time around. That means there's only going to be one more bite at the apple here for South. Let's see if we get a move going down in the infield section. Let's see if he decides to really chuck that BMW in.
Oh, he's very, very close. Last corner on the penultimate lap. They'll be coming to the white this time through. On board with Simonini going defensive down the front straightaway past the flag stand. And the white flag will wave this time through. Oh, bit of a bobble on the brakes, shaking and weaving. There's the brakes now finally at the end of a very long front straight. But maybe feeling the pressure.
Certainly could be. South doing everything that he can do to really try to give as much pressure as he can. We saw what happened earlier with McConnell falling back down through the field courtesy of a little bit of a blip and a bobble as he ran. We're going to have to see, though, maybe a little bit of a look there. Not going to be able to do it again. A little bit of a bobble there from the BMW now. And I think that may hand things over to Simonini with not a lot of time left to run.
Yeah, it's about 2.5 car lengths. It's all going to come down to the next sector. Can Bobby South close in? And can Giorgio Simonini keep that car in line? The slightest slip will give up this race win in the first of our 3 races, showing off this new DLC content, Indianapolis, COTA, and Watkins Glen. Of course, this is the site of our Indianapolis 8-hour later this season in October. But Simonini is focused on right now, 30 seconds from now.
30 seconds from now, just one more section of corners to go. There you see the BMW trying to narrow down that run as much as possible there. South just trying to find anything that he can, as now it's only 1, 2, 3 more corners to go for Simonini.
Count them now, 2 corners left for Simonini, and free and clear this time. Last turn, Simonini climbs up onto the front straightaway, and the first driver to win on Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Assetto Corsa Competizione is Giorgio Simonini for SRO Motorsports in the number 191. Gets it done. Bobby South second in the Turner Motorsports BMW. Jordan Sherratt for K-Pax Racing. Maxime Bouffoulier in the DXDT racing car. Then Kevin Bohm in CrowdStrike Racing by Riley Motorsports. Jardier from the back to 6th in the real-time racing Acura. Then Ben McConnell for ST Racing. Zach Patterson for Racer's Edge Motorsports. Cameron Martineau for ST. And Samir, the number 13 for Triarzi Competizione. What good battles. Here comes an Ian Lacey racing car. Dan Terry behind the wheel across the line in 13th. And looking a little further down the field, here's another Zalus car, the number 88. This is Robbie Montanola, Vice President of Marketing at SRO America. Look at the livery on this 88. This is one of the favorites in the paddock by fans and drivers alike.
Yeah, very, very easy to see as he tries to get his way around. Get right now, looking this way, looking that way. Robbie trying to get a little bit of a draft as they work their way onto the main straightaway at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There's a poke to the inside. Robbie's going to be close, but he's not going to be close enough.
18th place, and checkered flag falls here at Indianapolis. The first race of 3 is complete, DJ, so that is 1 down, 2 to go. Indianapolis Motor Speedway always puts on a great race. When we come here in October, though, 8 hours will go up on the board.
Yes, they will. A little bit longer than that 20 minutes that we saw. And as we said, October, a great time to see it. It's going to be some change of conditions. And as we said earlier, Kyle, talking about maybe getting those headlights into play a little bit.
Yeah, of course, potentially a little bit of a run into the evening, which will be really, really exciting. But race 1 is done, and we got to race almost to sunset. But coming up soon will be Circuit of the Americas, DJ. And this is a track that I've been to a handful of times. it always is fun to go to, and I think there are some people that don't truly appreciate the track layout of Circuit of the Americas. When you go and you watch a race there, I promise you your tone will change. It is a fantastic circuit, and it drives great here in Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Well, you certainly have won over me on that. COTA is one of those tracks that is on my bucket list, but I certainly do appreciate just how difficult it can be. As we said, that opening sweeper section starting off so quick and then tapering its way down, reducing speed over the course of it. Very, very tricky to get right. And then obviously the long blast onto the back straightaway and into the arena section always sets up plenty of fantastic back and forth battling.
And we're going to get to see it here in just a couple short minutes as we get prepared for our second show of the day. Race 2 of 3 will be at Circuit of the Americas. And again, this track built back in 2012, so it's relatively new, and it has some unique characteristics borrowed from tracks around the world. The S is reminiscent of Maggots Beckett's from Silverstone, DJ. It's got a section that is very reminiscent of the Hungaroring, that arena section. But again, it's a track that I think looks great, it feels great, and it drives great here at Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Yeah, it certainly does. And as we wait for that switch over to be coming up right now, and obviously we can't talk about this circuit without talking about one of its most breathtaking features, which is that burst corner, the hairpin uphill, such a tricky braking zone, and then the track just falling away from you, creating that beautiful blind apex as you come down through. We've seen so many good passes through there, so much good action, and a good wide entry into the corner that always sets up for a pretty fantastic run on the first lap.
And here's a look at the scenes from Assetto Corsa Competizione, track number 2 from the America DLC track pack. And again, 20 corners around this 3.5 mile circuit, and it certainly is a spectacle. Painted red, white, and blue. The original track name was, before it was named Circuit of the Americas, there was a concept to call it and the entire complex Speed City. I'm kind of glad Circuit of the Americas stuck, but I think that other name wouldn't have been too incorrect either.
No, it certainly wouldn't have been, as you do see some pretty fantastic speeds around here, as we said, specifically going down that long back stretch off of turn 11 hairpin as they run. But COTA here, one of the newer kids on the block when it comes to American open wheel racing. But as you've also said, Kyle, it has quickly cemented itself as a fearsome, fantastic track and a fan and driver favorite alike.
Yeah, and of course, when you come here for the first time, and just like Indianapolis, you come through the tunnel and you look up, and it's just monolithic in structure. I love the detail here. You see the Tech Pro barrier bundles kind of stuck behind the Armco. No detail has been excluded here. Have a look at the yellow anti-cut curbing, the anti-run wide curbing in this particular corner. That's turn number 11. You don't want to get yourself up onto that. That will give you a bad time here in ACC and in the real world. But that front straightaway in that first corner that you talked about, the 80-foot climb to the top of turn number 1, it's a great passing opportunity, but it's a great place to get yourself into trouble as well here, DJ. And you're going to get a look at it here in just a second.
Yeah, very, very tricky to get right. Uphill braking, so it becomes incredibly easy to lock those front tires in particular and speed off a little bit. And we've seen drivers be able to make moves work around the outside there, obviously down to the inside as well. It really presents multiple opportunities. As we tick down here, only about 1:50 left in free practice, and then we're going to set these GT3 cars out loose on the track and ready for qualifying.
Your first look at Circuit of the Americas, a big understeer moment there. But here's a look at it. Circuit of the Americas and Assetto Corsa Competizione, 3.5 miles, 20 turns, and a climb up towards turn number 1. There's what it looks like. Up on the binders, down to second gear, and maybe a little overshoot here, but they're going to see that quite a bit once we turn the green flag loose here in a couple moments.
Yeah, we certainly are, and as I said, you can actually take that outside line and find it very, very effective around there as they run. Not necessarily the fastest way to go. You do want to try to clip that apex a little bit more, but depending on how you're trying to run it, plenty of times there. We now work through that sort of faux Maggots and Beckett's complex as they go here, decreasing speed as you work your way through these S's. Really makes for a challenging proposition for the drivers, is then the flick through the left-hander, and now it's flat out up to the hairpin before you get onto the backstretch.
Watch the inside there. Don't get yourself a corner cut. Easy to get yourself off track. Got to stay between the white lines here into turn number 11 and right under the camera before you launch towards turn number 12. One thing that you'd never really get, look at the elevation change here. I never understood how much elevation was just on the back straightaway here, but it's tons. You kind of get pressed into your seat as you climb up over the crest, and then you launch all north of 160 miles an hour, maybe even towards 170 on the run down into turn number 12 right here.
Yeah, very much so. It is a undulating track as you go. You saw that little bit of elevation change when we went through the S's, and then the up and down roller coaster action down the back straightaway, taking in some of the natural curving and the natural terrain change over the course of this track. Now down to the infield section, we have seen so many times, Kyle, the fight back that you're able to get here on this part of the track. Drivers able to run side by side through multiple corners as the favored line just switches back and forth nearly constantly.
Through turn 19, another easy place to get yourself off track, so it's a good thing to practice staying on course. But practice is complete in just a couple minutes until we get qualifying sorted. Have a look at that tower. That is the most photographed object in Texas. I didn't believe it, but I looked it up and it's true. And at night it lights up in beautiful red, white, and blue lights, and that is something you will see here in the simulator if you choose to race here in the evening. But this observation tower as part of the amphitheater complex, it really does stand tall above the rest of the facility. You see the Media Center building there off to the left. I've stood around there plenty of times, and then the climb up towards turn 1 again is quite the experience, whether you're doing it at 35 miles an hour or 135.
Yeah, certainly is a fearsome climb. As we said, I am so excited to let these GT3s loose out on this circuit. One of the ones that I definitely had circled in terms of it, and as we said, more than likely be coming back here in real life for SRO.
Yeah, it's a track that just makes sense to go to. It's just one of the best racetracks in North America, and it certainly will, well, I can't say with certainty, but I can say that there is a desire to go back. And I certainly have a desire to go back at the very least. Qualifying is underway. 12 minutes on the board for drivers to set their grid position for race number 2. Jardier started from the back and made it all the way to 6th. We'll see if he qualifies for this one.
Yeah, it was a little bit strange to see Jardier having those qualifying problems, and I think it may have been a little bit of a situation that we kind of suspected that may be the case, that he wanted to maybe just start farther back in the field, have a little bit of fun moving his way forward, but pretty much everybody headed out on track right now. And in this circuit in particular here, Kyle, specifically the first and into the second sector, going through the S's, this is an area where you've got to be a little bit careful about following too closely behind the driver in front of you. These are high-speed corners, and you're going to be getting a big heaping of that aero wash and the dirty air hitting the top of these cars. Not exactly what you want to have happen. You want to get maximum downforce effect and clean air on these cars to really be able to get the best speed through this section.
Yeah, that's something that we've seen plenty of times in the real world, is actually Jardier's switch to the CrowdStrike Racing by Riley Motorsports Mercedes-AMG. We've seen a handful of times drivers following each other too closely and then heading through the S's, missing a turning point, then getting into the runoff and just going for a wild ride because they couldn't see where they were going. It's just such a tense area. You really have to be on your stuff and make sure that you have a little bit of visibility of where you're putting your tires. There's other places on this racetrack where there's big anti-cut curbs. They're painted kind of Cheeto orange, and you want to avoid those at all costs. They're painted orange as a danger sign. Don't hit those things. They will send your car skyward.
Yeah, they certainly will. They will definitely send your car skyward, and if you're able to keep all 4 tires on the ground, it'll at minimum do a little bit of damage to the under tray or even the suspension of these GT3s. These are pretty sturdy cars, but when you're coming over those things with such a clip of speed, it can definitely come back to bite you. As they're a perfect example of it. Yeah,
again, get a little bit too wide and it will bite you, as you mentioned. Kevin Boehm was also in one of the CrowdStrike Racing by Riley Motorsports cars, as he was in the previous session. Again, we've mentioned he's a competitor in TC America, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School, 2020 champion in the TCA category, 2021 runner-up in TC, and now the leader in TC in 2022 so far.
Yeah, doing a great job, having a great season for Kyle. He is going to be very, very pleased with his performance there in his machine out in real life. And we look forward to seeing him be able to get everything reared up and ready to go in Watkins Glen in just a couple of weeks' time, focusing back here on Dan Suzuki in the real-time racing number 43.
Yeah, so it looks like we've seen a couple of the drivers swap cars out to try out the other chassis for their own live streams. And again, you can head to their channels and find the videos of them competing in these cars. But Dan now in a real-time racing car. This is the 2019 Pro-Am Champion team led by Peter Cunningham, who of course that name will be very, very familiar to those who've watched North American sports car racing in the last 30 years or so. Winningest driver in SRO.
Yes, he very much is, and now working on this race team.
I guess I should have an asterisk next to that. What most winningest driver, what became the SRO series. Back then it was Speed World Challenge.
Well, we knew what you meant on that one there, Kyle.
Well,
yeah,
not
exactly.
everybody probably did, but we certainly did.
Yeah.
Robbie Montanola running in the Triarzi Competizione number 13. And Triarzi, a team that's relatively new to the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS Paddock. Ran with us in the GT America powered by AWS series last season at Sebring, and since then they've entered some more cars based out of Central Florida. And Robbie pulls over to let some other team cars by. Here is the number 88. We didn't get a lot of look at this last time, just the last couple moments of the Indianapolis stream, but here's a look at the Zaluz Motorsports number 88. And again, you just have to think that this is the prettiest car out there. There's so many good-looking cars, but this livery, this is a different one, I think, than what Robbie was running. And one of the liveries, I don't know if it's this one, but one of the Zaluz Motorsports liveries included every color that you could purchase a Lamborghini in. Every factory paint color was represented on the very bright and whimsical livery.
Yeah, and that's really one of the great things about Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS is just the number of liveries that we have out there on the grid. A lot of very, very striking ones, as you said earlier, and I've got to agree with you that this 88 does have a soft spot in my heart. It is a very, very striking one. You always know when you see it out on track exactly where it is. It's one of those cars that really makes you turn your head and pay attention.
Yeah, Jason Harward and Madison Snow are the drivers that typically pilot this car in North American competition. And the 88 this time through will run a 210.905. That lap will not count. Jardier up to second, a 208.115, a 205.6 though for Maxime Betfoulier, who jumps in the DXDT Racing number 08. This is Scott Smithson paired up with Brian Sellers, or Smithson in the 63. Always confuse me. There's two of these cars in competition, DJ. You were there more recently than me. You can answer that question probably.
I believe Smithson is in this machine with Sellers.
Yes, that's right.
It is. Does serve correct.
It is the 08. The other is David Askew. And who has he got paired up with this season?
I would have to go back through and look. Off the top of my head, I'm losing it.
Got enough drivers. I'll tell you that. There's plenty of them. But the 08 right now leading in qualifying. Jardier. Danny in third in the US Racetronics number 6. US Racetronics, a team that is with us in 2022 competition in the pro category, and boy, have they been fighting the K-Pax Lamborghinis. And it kind of came to a head with some of the other competitors back at Nola Motorsport Park. A little bit of rough and tumble there, I think, with the Turner car. But they've settled out their differences now. All part of the intense action. And emotions run high in sports car racing.
Yeah, they certainly do, and you know, they got themselves a little bit involved in some scuffling with K-Pax as well when we were down in BIR. This car just seemingly liking to get its elbows out. The drivers behind the wheel of that machine really not unwilling to throw some punches and to get themselves out into position to try to win a race, and you can tell they are hungry and they want it.
On the brakes into turn number 20. And onto the front straightaway again. The fastest lap, a 205.672, but Foulier went quicker. Bobby South back to second place in the number 90, the Turner Motorsport BMW, the new M4 GT3. here's Samir in the Tree RZ car, another Tree RZ car represented here. And here's the 45 again, Charlie Luck and Jan Halen that compete in Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS. And we spoke briefly about the Porsche during the Indianapolis portion, but this rear-engine car, again, rear-engine Porsches have been successful in every kind of racing in the last several decades, and goes back so long ago. They've gone through many iterations, but the current Porsche 911 GT3R is a beauty, and it is extremely competitive.
Yeah, extremely competitive. We've seen both Charlie and Yan really be able to put that car into some fantastic racing positions over the course of this season. Looked a little bit off the pace, as we said, back in VIR, but down in NOLA, that car was slicing its way through the field, looking very, very good. And frankly, just like out there today in this sort of showcase that we are doing today, it is the only Porsche in the field, which is a little bit surprising, to be honest, given the popularity of that car in sports car racing.
On the brakes into turn 15, real slow corner. You're relying entirely on mechanical grip in these GT3 cars at a speed like that. Again, they build downforce, but you have to have speed to let the aero do the work.
Yes, you very much do. You've got to be able to trust the car, and that's one of the biggest things to worry about, is you really have to have faith that the car is going to stick into the ground. It's not going to get away from you. It's not going to run too far wide on you. You have just got to hope that it goes in, and that's where really the more seat time you can get, Kyle, the better off you're going to be, the better you're going to know the limits of the car, and the more you're going to know just how hard you can push it through those sweepers.
Here's another example of a car that we see in Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS competition, the Ian Lacey Racing Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3. And you were joking earlier that I called this car swoopy, but that's the word that best describes the way that it looks. It's got that kind of James Bond-esque feel to it. Just real low, slung to the ground, and very clean, smooth lines. And Ian Lacey Racing applies this black, orange, and white livery to it and kind of completes the dynamic.
Yeah, really does. Just a very good accent of the car all the way across, really bringing out some of those great lines on the Aston Martin. And Ian Lacey Racing hasn't had the most successful season thus far, but they're slowly but surely moving their way up the order of the past couple of runs, and it really looks like that is going to be a car to watch. By the time we get into the latter part of the season, they're really starting to come into their own a little bit.
Turn number 11 for Dan Terry. Lights up the rear tires, pulling away. And Dan Suzuki in the number 43 has not yet put in a time that is probably indicative of his true pace. A 2:11.935, but it wasn't a legal time. He'll have to go again. Track limits here are a big deal, DJ. It's tricky. Got to keep it on the black stuff at Circuit of the Americas. And I think Indianapolis probably the track that'll bite you the most out of the three here in the DLC in terms of actually getting into a wall or into the grass. Here there's lots of pavement to play with, but it's not legal to drive on, so you got to really get your practice in to make sure that you're not getting yourself off tracks in a situation like this.
Yeah, you've really got to make sure here that you know the track limits before you step on into the car. This is a modern Grade 1 circuit as they run, so plenty of that asphalt runoff all the way around here, and that's really kind of begging you to pull out a little bit more, to take a little bit more as they go. And I think for these drivers, it's going to be very, very crucial that they know exactly where those track limits are, as it's so easy to pick it up and just run a hair over the line.
Onto the front straightaway for Dan Suzuki. And this time through, a 2:10.942. It still doesn't count. And he just got across the line with 12 seconds to go, so I think he'll get another go at it. But Jordan Charrat right now in the number 1 K-Pax Lamborghini to the top of the board and finishing up another flying lap, about a half second off of his best, though. So it will not be an improvement, but 2 minutes 5.307 is provisional pole right now. Giorgio Simonini is heading down towards turn number 11, up 0.3 at a 2:06.6. So still a full second off of Jordan Charrat, but this Zelus Motorsports 191 looking very competitive.
Yeah, looking very competitive indeed. And again, these Lamborghinis looking pretty strong all the way across the board here as the checkered flag does fly. And Simonini going to be getting a nice little tow up in front of him. That is going to be from Sanchez as they work their way down the backstretch.
Yeah, and it's going to help out quite a bit. On the straightaway there, you want the car in front of you, but here's where it's not going to help you, is in the stadium section here, turns 13 through 15. See, he's have to lift here to get around the 33, and it's not going to be conducive to a fast lap time. Big dive up the inside for 15. 33 is going to push wide, but that's going to be it for Simonini. Gets blocked out from the fast lap.
Yeah, gonna get blocked out there, and it looks like he's gonna call it a day for qualifying. Bobby South in that Turner Motorsports number 90. Now gonna be who we're following here through this multi-apex right-hander.
Turn 17, 18, 19, south into turn 19 now. On the left, up 0.3 of a second. If he can finish out this lap at this pace, he will jump into 4th place on the outside of row number 2. Big curb hop through turn 20, though. Is that going to slow him down across the line? A 2:06.937 jumps him to 4th.
Pretty good run there for him. He's going to be happy to be pleased with that. Let's see if Naga's got anything coming across the line. Looks like that number 44 is going to stay back in 8th.
So qualifying complete. Jordan Sherrod at the top of the board. A 2:05.307 is your fastest driver in qualifying, and they will start up on pole alongside Maxime Betfoulier. Giorgio Simonini will start in 3rd alongside Bobby South. Then Samir Fook in the 14th. Then Jaroslav Hanzik Jardier will start in 6th. Zach Patterson, Dihid Naga in 8th place. And Kevin Bohm and Danny Gusa 9th and 10th. That is your top 10 here for the start of our second 20-minute race in this ACC America DLC preview event. I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by DJ Clark. Glad to be with you here for the second of our 3-race show here today.
Indeed, only one more to go after this, but it's going to be another 20-minute race showcasing here the new American DLC, as you said, here at Circuit of the Americas, ready to get running, Kyle, and this is going to be another, I think, pretty close race as they run.
I think it's going to be close as well. Cars are lining up here on the stretch from turn 18 to 19, which doesn't give you a ton of time to warm up your tires and brakes. Will that be a topic of conversation potentially here in this event? You don't have a lot of time to get your tires and brakes warmed up for this.
No, you really don't. Starting off of those last 2 corners, really, I think it's going to make that run into turn 1 a little bit more hairy. We're going to have to watch out for it.
So cars lined up, 20 of them on the starting grid for this. Again, I'm Kyle Heyer, joined by DJ Clark for this 20-minute race. And after this one, we have one more at Watkins Glen International to wrap things up. 3.4 mile, 11 turn road course, 14 by some count. That's the thing about some tracks with multiple layouts and bus stops and chicanes that may or may not count. DJ, no one ever really knows how many corners they are. Everyone kind of agrees.
Yeah, exactly. You know, sometimes you get a little kink in the road that's counted as a turn. Sometimes it's not. Looking at Road America in particular, always a big fight about that with turn 3 and turn 5.
And turn 2 that might or might not exist.
Right.
Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, Mosport, that one's got some ambiguity there, but all in the name of fun. I mean, some of the corners that are kinks in the straights, and some of the kinks in the straights are corners. So, you just have to all come to an agreement on what's what. Sonoma Raceway also.
Yeah, very much one as well. And well, Sonoma, you get into the 8A, 8B kind of argument as well, but pretty much agreed upon here as they are about 20 corners as they run, just waiting for the last couple of drivers to grid up. And Kyle, we've got a race on our hands.
We certainly do. Cars will be pacing themselves towards the front straightaway. Jordan Sherrod in the number 1 K-Pax car will be on your pole. Maxime Betfoulier on the outside, the Kalo-sponsored 08 from DXTT Racing. Giorgio Simonini in the 191, Bobby South in the 90 are your front 2 rows. ACC brings you the America DLC with Indianapolis, Watkins Glen, and Circuit of the Americas. 20 minutes previewing the new cars and the new tracks in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, next heads to Watkins Glen in a couple of weeks. COTA will hopefully someday be back on our calendar. It was as of last season. We hope for it to be back soon. going racing for 20 minutes. Green flag flies, and cars thunder up the hill towards turn number 1.
Yes, they do. A little bit of a gaggle there behind as we see the 191 of Simonini trying to get a little bit aggressive going into the first corner there. Everybody looking like they're able to filter their way out, up and over the left-hander as now we enter into the sweepers. A good start there from Simonini, already up into second.
Good start so far into the S's for the first time. Switchbacks right to left to right to left. And so far so good. I think everybody's pointed the right direction. But Sherratt leads the way. Zach Patterson in the middle of the field, and the number 93 racer Assetto Motorsports car has a pack of cars behind him, led by Kevin Bohm, who's feeling pressure from Azelus, number 88. Whoa, trouble. There's 2 cars off to the inside.
Not sure exactly who those were. We're going to have to go back and take another look at that to figure out what happened there. But we focus here on Ben McConnell as he's trying to close in behind a little bit as they run. And Dan Suzuki there back in the back in that Acura.
Yeah, a couple of Turner Motorsports cars also heading around. Didn't see what cars were turned around the wrong way. Unfortunately, the timing screen will take a little bit longer to update, but a couple of cars facing the wrong direction. As we go back up front, Jordan Sherratt in the number 1. Whoa, trouble. Gets turned, spun by the 191. And right in the middle of traffic, the 93 spins. Everybody spins.
Oh, everybody having problems. They are going down into the hairpin, leading on to that back straightaway. It looks like everybody's able to get themselves back up and going, but that is certainly going to shake up the order here. My goodness gracious, more contact!
Oh, man, a mess in the stadium section here at Circuit of the Americas. Everybody looking for racing room as we move back up towards the front. The 1 car had turned around. The 191 is free and clear. Maxime Betfoulier in second. Then it's the 45 of Dahib that's now going to be in third, I think, after all that cycles and shuffles. But what a mess over there at turn 12. Again, a great passing opportunity that went south quick.
Yeah, very, very tricky way to run there. As you said, Betfoulier now going to be the one trying to close in on the back here of Simonini as they cross over the timing and scoring line. It's going to be a little bit of a run here, although Maxime is about a second behind. Ooh, good gaggle coming in there behind us. We've almost got a little bit of a diamond coming down into the corner. We ride on board with Bobby South looking this way and that through turn 1.
Yeah, chasing the number 5, that's Jardier, Jaroslav Hanzik on the inside of turn number 2. Down the hill they go, under the Circuit of the Americas bridge. And South, who was up front in the Indianapolis race, is now buried in traffic in this one here at Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, not looking like they've got the best run for themselves, but they've got plenty of time to be able to make up here. Still about 17 minutes left to go in this race. Good approach there coming through the final part of the S's, as you could see trying to come down to the inside. There was South on Jardier, really pushing that BMW. A little bit of a wiggle there coming in. Maybe just trying to feel out the track a little bit more. Let's see if he can get a good run going down the backstretch.
Into turn number 11, one of Circuit of the Americas' best passing zones, down to second gear. And on the outside is the 38 ST Racing car of Ben McConnell, and who Samantha Tan talked about earlier as one of her Esports drivers. Actually, no, not this one. It's the other car, the 39 of Cameron Martineau is one of the Esports drivers for ST Racing. But side by side, the 2 BMWs behind Jardier in the Crown Strike Racing by Riley Motorsports Mercedes-AMG GT3.
Yeah, now the battle of the BMWs here. It looks like Turner Motorsports and Bobby South is going to be able to hold off McConnell for the moment. McConnell not really wanting to send too much of an aggressive move down into this switchback arena section, but this has allowed for Jardier now to have a little bit of breathing room up ahead. Bobby South, though, as they come down through the left-hander, starting to get a little bit closer.
Yeah, Jardier again started tail of the field in the Indianapolis race in the real-time racing Acura NSX GT3 Evo, but this time qualified and started right in the mix in that Crown Strike Racing by Riley Motorsports Mercedes-AMG, and feeling pressure from behind this time through. All the while up front, Maxime Betfoulier has closed in on your leader, Giorgio Simonini. They climb up the hill here at turn 1, Circuit of the Americas, perhaps the most famous part of the racetrack, into the corner on the brakes hard.
Looked down to the inside, did Betfoulier, as they tried to get a little bit of a run there, but not able to do it over Simonini. Simonini holding out ahead right now. Now, this is the area of the track where we talked about that aero wash that's going to come into play. This is probably going to cause Betfoulier to fall back by maybe a tenth or so, but look at that. That Mercedes powering through the corner. A really strong run. That's really impressive, Kyle.
Again, horses for courses, and the performance window that the BOP gets these cars into, They're not equal in a true sense, but they are within the same performance window so that they all make the same lap time, and that what makes things very exciting. Some cars pull others in certain areas of the racetrack. Mercedes-AMG really good at some of these transient maneuvers, the rights to left, the transitions. The Lamborghini, though, is such a strong car in a lot of places on the racetrack, and Simonini is going to use all of it here on the back straightaway.
Yeah, certainly is. The draft is going to help out Batfulia a little bit, but I don't think enough to be able to get a move in. Looking like that gap's holding at about 3/4 tenths of a second. Batfulia just not able to get it in. That Lamborghini slippery enough in a straight line to be able to do it. But again, we see that Mercedes coming here now. Maybe a move down into the right-hander. Not going to be able to play itself there into 13. But I've got to think Simonini is really starting to feel this pressure from that DXDT Mercedes behind.
Great defense by Simonini. It really does look like either Jeff Burton or Corey Lewis is behind the wheel of the SRO Motorsports 191 today. Through the carousel now. Turns 16, 17, 18. The triple apex right-hander that leads you down the hill. And it is a battle for the top spot. SRO Motorsports versus DXDT Racing, represented here in Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Yeah, and looking there like a little bit coming through the penultimate couple of corners, that Batfulia lost a little bit of time, but able to gain it back up here coming out of that final corner. This is the best run we've seen out of that Mercedes quite yet. Backs off a little bit. That Lambo just able to be quick enough in a straight line to hold him at bay.
And the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 has the legs on the straightaway, but the brakes belong to the Mercedes-AMG into turn 1. The 191 didn't quite get down to the apex. The Mercedes-AMG did. They will continue to battle. Let's quickly jump back to 6th place, the number 5 of Jardier.
And they'll continue to battle themselves out here, trying to see what will happen as they go.
Down towards turn 2 now. And just behind them, actually in front of them, I should say, this is Wright Motorsports versus US Racetronics, another battle that we've seen in Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS. Again, typically the 45 piloted by Charlie Luck and Jan Halen. And the US Racetronics car has been in front of the field a lot in 2022.
Yeah, very, very much so, as they work in through here, trying to see what drivers are going to be able to do as we continue to get everything going here at COTA.
Yeah, Circuit of the Americas, again, a 3.5-mile, 20-turn circuit. And certainly one of the spectacles of North American motorsport here, DJ.
Yeah, one of the new kids on the block, as we said earlier, but it has quickly become a fan and driver favorite as everything runs, and very much one of those places that has become a must-go-to if you are a fan of North American racing.
Yeah, I would say so. Again, all the tracks represented here in the DLC. Of course, Indianapolis, Circuit of the Americas, and Watkins Glen. All of them some of the best circuits that Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS runs on here. Back to the battles, though. Simonini and Maxime Batfulia, nose to tail still, a 10th between them with 12 minutes to go.
This battle not going anywhere at all. Batfulia just trying to see if he could get that advantage here. We've seen him have a couple of good runs out of that final corner multiple times, and just doesn't seem like that Mercedes has the legs, though. This is the closest we've seen him, and definitely gaining as they climb their way up the hill. Looking down into the corner, trying to make another move. Batfulia not able to get it done. Again, a good defense there from Simonini.
Through turn 2 now, chasing each other through the fast sections at Circuit of the Americas. I love the S's here. It's such a dynamic piece of racetrack, modeled after Maggots and Beckett's in the UK, but a lot more elevation present in this version, especially towards the end. Turn number 8, that long right-hander that you kind of peel the car around before that run down to turn 11 in that great passing zone.
Yeah, exactly. It is, sort of cherry picking some of the best sequences of any tracks anywhere around the world. Maggots and Beckett's here, and then obviously a little bit of that fight back area, like you mentioned, into the Hungaro ring, even taking a little bit of a cue from Turkey in that multi-apex right-hander that we go down to before the penultimate corner. It is really just a view of some of the best tracks in the world, Kyle.
Well, the two leaders continue to fight back in 5th. Things are extremely spicy here. The 45, the 5, and the 90 all kind of on top of each other. And in the background, a big dive from, I think that was Kevin Bohm, launched past the number 12 Ian Lacey Racing Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3. Bohm grabs 10th place away with that dive.
Yeah, Kevin Bell trying to work his way up forward in that number 4. As you said, good runs here for Kevin. He's going to have Git up ahead of him to the tune of about 3 or 4 tenths of a second, I think, as they run. No, excuse me, that's going to be the number 91 up ahead of him, as that is South going off wide there in that ST Racing BMW.
I think it was McConnell, rather. Yes, in the 38 car. That went a little bit wide there at turn number 12. Got back on track, but now just behind him, it's the number 91 of Alfredo Santagargangello that will be right with him through turn 15 and a stack up forming behind him.
This is being a little bit of a train here as they go. Coming down through the corner, that's going to be an aggressive attack there for the 91. Down through the multi-apex corner, looking for a little bit of a crossover, maybe going into the penultimate corner. That's exactly what he's thinking, and all of that battling has allowed for Kevin Bohm to pull right up to the back of this.
Big protective move by the 38. They're going to go side-by-side. BMW friendly fire here. Here comes the 4, the Mercedes-AMG. Kevin Bohm with the CrowdStrike Racing by Riley Motorsports Mercedes-AMG sails on by. He'll grab 9th and clear the 38. Now sets his sights on the 91 just ahead.
And there you can see that Ian Lacey racing Aston Martin, weaving its way back and forward, just trying to see if there's a little bit of a move there, maybe trying to throw some drivers off of the line. Bohm taking a little bit of a narrower line there into the entrance of the S's, but he is going to be pushing here.
Delicate balance. Don't get too much of the curbing here. Just nibble with the left side tires, then back to the right. And keep it tucked very, very tight here, but flowing speed is so important here at Circuit of the Americas, maintaining momentum and then arresting it at those very sharp hairpins, those good passing opportunities. You're using the fast flowing sections to set up for those hairpins, and that's what makes this such a great racing racetrack that I think people really need to go to see in person when we return. It's a ticket worth buying, as is the ones for Watkins Glen coming up here shortly and the Indianapolis 8-hour that you can win.
Most certainly. I mean, just seeing that change in weight balance coming through those S's at such high speeds in these GT3 machineries, it is a sight to behold. So we right on board now with the number 12 Aston Martin, sending a move down to the inside there of McConnell, but backs out of it, going into the corner now, going to look around the long way.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he had the brakes to get that thing slowed down the way he needed to there, Mr. Gitt, but he'll tuck back in 11th. Ben McConnell, though, might be suffering just a little bit at the moment. Kevin Bohm is still on the attack on the number 91 from Turner Motorsport. Oh, big spark flash from Bobby South in the number 90. Or no, that was actually rather the 91 that shot sparks in the air, jumping over some of those exit curves.
Yes, it was, and you talked about those exit curves earlier on, and that is certainly not a good thing there for them. We are now right on board with Bobby South, trying to close down on Naga in that number 45 Porsche, the Wright Motorsports machine right there. Good run for the BMW, going to poke his nose to the inside, going to have to be very late on the binders. Defensive move there from the 45, and that doesn't look like that BMW is going to be able to get its way on by quite yet.
Not quite yet, but maybe the run through the S's will be enough for Bobby South to find a way around the Wright Motorsports Porsche. The green, the yellow, and the red. Big dive into the S's, but just nowhere to go. There's just, you can't quite make a pass in this section unless you're really gutsy and don't mind pushing someone offline to get by them. But Naga in the 45 certainly feeling the pressure in that Wright Motorsports Porsche.
Yeah, certainly is feeling that pressure. And as you mentioned there, Kyle, coming through the S's, it really is a one-way street. There's one good line to be able to take through there, because if you get offline, it's not really going to compromise you in the current corner that you're in, but it's going to compromise you in the other corners that you run, the corners that come up. But there, Bobby South taking a later apex into turn 11, trying to carry as much speed onto the backstretch as humanly possible, getting a nice tow here behind Naga, and here comes the move.
To the inside, here comes Bobby South for 6th place on the 45 of Naga into turn 12 now. Now it's a braking duel, but the Porsche brakes so late on the outside. If he can maintain overlap, he'll have the inside for turn 13, and he does have that overlap. Can he keep it rolling on the inside, or will South complete it around the outside?
Oh, it's going to be a little bit dicey there, and it looks like there's going to be some advantage now to South. He's going to have the advantage for that double apex left-hander. Tries to force Wright Motorsports 45 a little bit out wide, and it looks like that's moved done and dusted for the 90.
Got it done. Giorgio Simonini has lost the lead to Maxime Betfoulier. How did that happen? We got to go back and check that out. Here's a look. It was the stadium section through turn 15 that got it done, and the 8 slid by the 191 in that very tricky crossover section. That's why I love the stadium section here at Circuit of the Americas. It gives you so many crossover opportunities, and in these big GT3 cars with all that power under the rear wheels, you can kind of give a little squirt of throttle and squeeze by the inside on one of those switchbacks.
Well, and as we saw on those previous runs there with Bobby South and Naga, it also presents a fantastic opportunity to be able to throw some defense into the mix as well, fighting back on those moves. If you're able to just carry some momentum around the outside, it does switch back to favor you in the next corner, so it really sets up a good back and forth.
Simonini has lost the lead, but Foulier is checking out right now. Has a 0.6 of a second lead after half a lap of leading. Trying not to look back. 4 minutes remain as the sun gets low in the Austin, Texas sky. And tucks in tight for turn number 11. A couple drive-through penalties out for a few of the drivers around the field. But our fastest driver, at least by lap time, Sherratt in the K-Pax Racing number 1, runs 8th with a stack up of cars behind him, including the 91, which we saw earlier go for a ride over the curbs at the exit of 15. Looks like that hasn't harmed that car at all.
No, it certainly hasn't. And those drive-through penalties not issued by a live race controller or anything like that. That is the sim itself giving penalties here for track limits. And we talked about the easiness to be able to pick up those track limit penalties around a modern circuit like this. Very, very easy to let the car run a little bit wide on the exit of the corners as you're pushing in these battles. And that's exactly what's happened here to the likes of Gusa, McConnell, and Sanchez.
Look at Ben McConnell under fire from Mr. Gitt in the number 12 from Ian Lacey Racing. Again, trying an outside turn 12 move, at least to build a run into turn 13. And this is that switchback section I was just talking about. You get this right-hander at 13, another right-hander at 14, and it opens up the door into 15 to chuck the car down the inside and push somebody wide. This time, not close enough to get the overlap, but this is a vulnerable place, and you have to close off your weaknesses here if you're the lead car.
Yeah, you really, really do. It's one of those sections of the track that you've got to be looking in your rear view mirror for a substantial chunk of it, because you don't want to give a driver any sort of an opportunity to be able to fight back on you. It can be very, very easy.
Oh, trouble. Car turned around front straightaway, one of the Turner cars.
I believe that's Bobby South there as they go, and he's trying to get that car turned back around the right way. Not entirely sure what happened to that number 90. Let's check out the replay.
Here's a look at it into turn number 20. On the brakes, right behind the 5 of Jardier, gets on the curbing and once, twice, thrice slams the curbs back across the racetrack, tags the number 6, and it noses into the barrier, and the yellow flag is waving. So Bobby South takes a heavy impact to the pit lane wall.
A very, very heavy blow for that Turner Motorsports number 90 BMW GT3, as that is not going to be the way that Bobby would have liked to have seen this race go. He's going to find himself well down the order, cutting the course there. I've got to think that car's got some pretty significant damage, maybe even some steering damage, as it just doesn't look like it wants to grip at all.
No, again, that was a pretty heavy impact into the pit lane barrier there, so I think Bobby South is going to be in trouble in terms of getting that thing to the end. The good news is we only have 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining, so he's not going to have to limp it around for long. There's Mr. Gitt now battling the 33 for 10th spot, but they're both going to get an opportunity to get by the 90.
Yeah, I've got to think here on the straightaway we may see a little bit of that aerodynamic damage coming into play, that it may hurt Bobby in a straight line ever so slightly. But Mr. Gitt now trying to get that move back on Sanchez as they go down the back straightaway here. The Ian Lacey Racing Aston Martin looking down to the inside. He's going to have to be very, very late on the binders. Not late enough. He backs off.
Yeah, thought better of it. Didn't see an opportunity there to go on by. In the background, Racers Edge Motorsports trying to catch back up to Denise in the Triarzi number 23. Another car that we've seen in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS Competition. And the 93 right behind. This is Ferrari versus Acura NSX GT3 Evo. And again, just like the comparison we had with the Mercedes AMG and the BMW GT3, rear engine, or I should say rear wheel drive mid-engine, but that's about where the similarities end. They both have turbocharged engines, but one's a V8, that's the Ferrari, one's a V6, the Acura NSX.
Yeah, very different cars, but both have that sort of aggressive look to them as they go. And I've got to say, the Acura, one of my most favorite looking cars in the paddock. It's a really remarkable car to look at. Looks modern, looks mean in a very, very sleek way, and you can tell the aerodynamic engineering that really went into that car to get it to where it is. And look at that speed. Zach Patterson is able to carry through that final corner.
Yeah, he gave up some mid-corner speed, or some exit speed, I should say, for mid-corner speed, and isn't able to carry it all the way on up onto the front straightaway. One car hits pit lane. I think that's the number 90 that has come on down pit road. But sun is setting here in Austin, and the timer has run out. Maxime Betfoulier out front has the fastest lap time and is sprinting away from Giorgio Simonini, who he passed a couple of laps ago in his DXDT Racing Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. Betfoulier has done a fantastic job in this race and has nothing to look in the mirror for right now driving away.
Yeah, doing absolutely everything that needed to be done here at Circuit of the Americas, being very, very patient in that battle with Simonini, being very, very calm, cool, and collected, and just seizing on the opportunity when it came across Maxime. Only about 2 corners to go here to take that checkered flag.
Turn 19, a fast-flowing left-hander. Double stages of rumble strips on the outside to run out there, but Maxime Betfoulier in the number 8 for DXDT Racing here at Assetto Corsa Competizione will be the first driver to win at Circuit of the Americas here in Austin, Texas in Assetto Corsa Competizione. The American Track Pack DLC, Maxime Betfoulier gets it done, not quite, slams on the brakes at the end, and here comes Simonini across the line, a little closer than we might have thought. Oh, that was past the line. The start finishes down there, the exit at 20.
Yes, it is. As here comes Jardier. Remember being able to put the qualifying time down here, and now he's going to find himself up into 4th place. Naga putting on a fantastic run to work his way up through the field. He'll come home to round out the top 5.
Here comes Jordan Girat, was the fastest driver in the field for some time. 6th place for the number 1. Here comes the 91. Turner Motorsport. Across the line there, Mr. Gitt in the number 12 Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3. For Ian Lacey Racing, gets an 8th place out of it. Kevin Boehm 9th. Bobby South is going to lift this car back to a 10th, but not without some pressure from the 88 Zelus car.
Yep, and Bobby South, I've got to give him some credit. That was some pretty massive damage sustained to the front of that BMW, and the fact that he was able to get it to the line and be able to hold on to that top 10, very, very impressive run from that Turner Motorsports BMW machine.
Veselakos in 11th in the number 88. The 23 and the 93 had a very close battle to the checkers. 12th and 13th for that grouping. 14th, Jonas Schultz. Dan Terry in another Ian Lacey Racing car. Ben McConnell for ST Racing will bring the 38 home in 16th place. Little ways back.
Yeah, a little ways back, just waiting for the last couple of drivers to finish up here at COTA. Dan Suzuki in the real-time Racing Acura going to be bringing that car through the multi-apex, a right-hander, and now down into the penultimate corner. He will be the last driver here to finish up.
Yeah, Dan Suzuki either didn't click with this car or had an issue, because 16th place now for the 18th place, I should say, across the line for the number 43 from Real Time Racing. Circuit of the Americas race complete here, DJ. That solid race, some good action, some good over-unders and things of the sort. But again, this track just puts on some incredible racing. But my personal favorite of the bunch is coming up shortly.
I know it is, Kyle. Your home circuit of Watkins Glen, the 3rd of 3 new tracks being added here to Assetto Corsa Competizione. This one's going to be fast, flowing, and fun.
Yeah, Watkins Glen International in Watkins Glen, New York. A couple hours away from New York City, an hour south of Rochester, where I grew up. And again, it's coming up here shortly. 11 turns, 3.41 miles. Similar in length to this racetrack, a couple fewer corners. But built back in the 1950s and has been home to series like Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, for decades, and hopefully for decades to come. It just is one of the best racetracks in the country. I would argue the world, DJ. I think you're on the Indianapolis train. Some people are probably on the COTA train, and I'm on the Watkins Glen train in terms of which one's my favorite out of the pack.
Well, it's certainly Indianapolis for me, but as you said, a little bit of hometown bias coming into play for that. Watkins Glen, certainly, I think, one of, if not the best racetrack in all of North America. It is one of my favorites to drive. It is one of my favorites to watch. Any racing series that goes there, it is a track with such great history, as well as just constantly great racing action.
You're watching a preview for the Assetto Corsa Competizione America DLC, available June 30th. 3 tracks Indianapolis, COTA, and Watkins Glen, as well as all the liveries, all the North American Fanatec GT World Challenge America liveries will be available as well, and you can replicate the North American racing that you would see. And you can see Watkins Glen yourself in just a couple of weeks' time. Tickets are available if you'd like to go stop by for the weekend. And there's more than just the Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS that will be there. Of course, we'll have our companion series, TC America powered by Skip Barber Racing School, Pirelli GT4 America, and GT America powered by AWS. So that's what's to look forward to here in a couple of weeks. But of course, Watkins Glen International, 3.4 miles and 11 turns. The twists and turns of this racetrack, the powder blue Armco walls have been a staple in North American road racing for a long, long time, and now finally are represented here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Kudos, ACC and SRO America present Watkins Glen International in Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Oh, I'm so excited for this one, Kyle. There are those powder blue Armco barriers that we have come to fantasize about a little bit as they come. ACC getting to bring this circuit to life, whether it's down through the S's, down through the boot, all around this circuit. It is fantastic, and it is time to let some GT3 cars loose on this historic Watkins Glen circuit.
It all starts with a run down to turn number 1, the corner known as the 90. Downshift into third gear. Extremely high speed for how tight it is. Lots of banking to lean on through there. Then you're going to have that short shoot to the lowest portion of the racetrack, the bottom of turn number 2. And then you climb the S's 110 feet. Right, left, right before the 1,800-foot-long back straightaway, and then into the inner loop, the bus stop chicane. I don't care what you call it. It's an extremely fun portion of the racetrack. You sling the car through there. You clobber the curbs. You head then into the carousel. This corner right here, high speed, turn number 5, banking to lean on, 12 degrees of it. Then you head straight out of that into turn 6, the downhill into the boot. Called that because from above, it looks like a boot. No surprises there. Turn 7, the toe. Wrap around, climb up a couple stories, shoot back up towards turn number 8, right-hander. Then turn 9, the left-hander, the off-camber turn, 2 turns left, 10 and 11, the left-right combination that completes a lap here at Watkins Glen. Cameron Martineau in the number 4 for the number 4 spot for ST Racing is in the boot right now. We'll ride on board with them as he starts practicing for this event.
About 2 minutes left to go here in practice. Martineau bringing that car up and over here through the toe, down into the heel. This has really become an overtaking opportunity as the course has developed over time. As there they go. Not exactly getting the best line there out of the heel, but then we come up here into turn 9, and Kyle, I don't know about you, this is always one of the trickiest corners to be able to drive no matter where you are. It comes back onto a flat surface after rising up the hill. So easy to spin those tires up, just get a little bit of snap oversteer and let that rear end break away. It is very, very tricky to get right.
Well, here is a full lap. We're not going to, well, we should get a full lap here on board with Cameron Martineau from ST Racing. On the front straightaway, down into turn number 1. Listen to the gears. 1, 2, 3. Down from 6th to 3rd gear. Out to the rumble strip at the exit of turn 1. This is the lowest portion on the racetrack geographically. You get compressed into your seat. Keep it tight to the right up the 110-foot climb. Back to the left. Top of the S's between the Armco walls. 32 feet from wall to wall there, the narrowest section of the racetrack. And then this straightaway that leads to that bus stop, that inner loop, DJ. And this is such a fun portion of the racetrack.
It really, really is chucking the car down into the bus stop. One of the good overtaking opportunities that you see. And then, as you mentioned here, into the outer loop, the carousel, bringing plenty of speed through there as that banking is going to help you as you plunge your way downhill into the boot section of the track. Another good overtaking opportunity here down into the laces of the boot. Plenty of times that we see drivers being able to get a send there.
Then into the toe. Big compression here. The track just grinds you into your seat as you climb up the hill here. You drive this at 50 miles an hour. It feels like you're doing 150. Up through the gears again. You're going to get to probably the top of 5th before the braking zone to turn number 8. 300, 200, 100 on the brakes. Carried it a little bit too much speed, did Martineau. Now tracks out to the rumble strip on driver's left, and then this off-camber left-hander at turn 9 that you've already mentioned. This is where the track rejoins the short course that NASCAR uses, and because of that, there's no banking, and the car wants to really understeer and then snap oversteer. Then 2 more corners, almost flat out through 10, just a little lift for confidence. Use all the rumble strip available to you, and then turn number 11. This one's scary. That wall on corner exit comes right up to the edge of the road. To make sure you don't scrape that once or twice, that'll end your day.
Yeah, you've got to be very, very careful. One of the characteristic things here about Watkins Glen is the fact that Armco is so close to you on either side of the track. It is a track that you really, really have to be careful pushing too hard on, because that Armco will grab you and spit you right back out.
There's not a lot of places that still look like this. This is a classically designed North American road racing circuit. Fast-flowing corners that allow cars to really continue the momentum. Of the 3 tracks that we will see today, that we have seen today, this track has the one of the highest average speeds, because there's just no hairpins, there's no real slow corners. The slowest you get is at turn number 9, and even that is about 50 miles an hour, which is even a little bit more than some of the corners that you'll see at Circuit of the Americas, like turn 11 and 12. Here, all fast all the time, and in the boot especially, not a lot of places to escape. If you drop a tire or if you have a spin, that wall, that powder blue wall, while it is beautiful, it is not a sight that you want to see too close in the windshield, because that will signify the end of your day.
Yeah, it certainly will. You've got to just toe that line between aggression and passivity around here, Kyle. And it's really a fine line to be able to tread. You want to be aggressive. You want to be able to make those moves down into the corner. But even with some of the cambering around these corners, it can be very, very easy to pick up a little bit of that understeer and let the car drift a little bit wide. So you've got to be very, very careful and precise in the way you chuck the cars through the corners.
Well, we're going to get to see them chuck the cars through the corners very, very quickly, because they are heading onto the racetrack. Maxime Boutillier, the winner from Circuit of the Americas round we just did, is on track first and climbing up the hill in the S's. Again, iconic section of racetrack. Can you believe that in the 70s and 80s they tried putting a chicane in there? No, we're going to keep it fast and flowing up the S's this time through.
I actually did not know that, so that's a little bit of a good, interesting thing to know, that obviously in the pursuit of safety, trying to cut that down.
Yeah, back in the 70s, I believe, they were trying to keep speeds in the S's down a little bit, so they put a kind of a right-left sling chicane in. It was a right-left sling right at kind of the middle point between turn 2 and turn 3. And it only lasted a couple of years before they decided it really wasn't doing much of anything, so they got rid of it, and the track to this day stands as it did. Now, the other thing that people might not know about Watkins Glen in particular is that the boot section that we're running on is not part of the original course. This was also added in the 1970s. The original course, built in 1953, did not contain this portion. It was originally just what we would now consider the short course, and even that wasn't how it is now. The short course used to go straight from the carousel in a straight line all the way through what is now the NASCAR garage area, and then it would take a right-hander for a very short stint on what is now the front straightaway. And the original front straight was actually between what is now turns 1 and turn 2. So this track has seen quite a bit of reconfiguration, and I'll give you an example next time we head down the hill. I'll show you where the old start-finish line used to be.
Well, we work our way towards that run down to the hill into the 90 right now, as this is Boutillier only good enough for 8th on his outlap. Well, he hasn't set a time down yet, so that's why.
There you go, driver's right. That flag stand, that's where the old start-finish line used to be. They found that flag stand in a couple of years ago in a barn that was on site. It had kind of been forgotten about. They put the flag stand back up to mark the site of the old start-finish line, which was right before the uphill S's. Those used to be the first couple corners on the racetrack. When it was reconfigured and the boot added, then the garage was removed, the front straightaway position was swapped, and even then that wasn't the end of the changes. In 1993, that was the addition of the inner loop that we know today after a series of accidents, some of which gnarlier than others. The inner loop was meant to slow cars down for the carousel, and while it does that, it's still a very fast area of the racetrack. And then the final changes, the most recent years in the mid-2000s, the addition of all the extra runoff at turns 1 in the inner loop, the exit of the carousel, as well as in turn 8 and 10. and they moved the start-finish line a couple years prior to that a little further down the front straight. It used to be closer to turn number 11. I think I got all the changes in there, DJ. The folks that know all sorts of things about Watkins Glen are very happy, and things that didn't are now overloaded with factual information about my favorite racetrack. Can you tell that it's my favorite racetrack?
You sound like me talking about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Kyle. I absolutely love it. And learning a decent amount as you go. And so that is always some good knowledge to have here as we go in one of the most historic tracks in all of North America.
Yeah, and it's played host to a fall round of Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS for quite some time now. But this is the first time that we've seen this event in the summer. It's coming up in just a couple of weeks. So if you're near the Watkins Glen, New York area, Elmira, Corning, Binghamton, Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, any of those cities are just a couple of hours away. If you're in New York City, it's not that far either. Northern Pennsylvania, I promise it's worth the trip.
Yeah, it certainly is. And as you said, in just a couple of weeks' time, rather, we will make our trip up there for the Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS, as these cars are going to be able to be turned loose around this circuit. And I think it's going to be a pretty fascinating run to see how everybody does. All of our 4 series that we bring with us going to be putting on some fantastic action. And it's really going to be kicking off a pretty busy couple of weeks for SRO America.
Yeah, and of course, there's still lots left on the calendar this season. Some other great racetracks that are not yet here in the simulator of Assetto Corsa Competizione, but this is a great addition. Zach Patterson right now on provisional pole, a 1:45.287. That's pretty quick. I'm not sure we'll see a whole lot faster. Maybe someone can make it down into the 44s and 43s, but dependent on track temperature. The track right now, 29 degrees Celsius. Simonini, by the way, in 11th at the moment, has not yet put in what I would call a representative time.
Not quite yet. That was a little bit of a wide run there, though, for the number 40 up ahead of him. That is Vasquez there, just having a little bit of a problem. And that's one of the things we talked about coming through these corners, Kyle. Very easy to pick up just that little bit of understeer that causes you to push wide.
Yeah, of course. The Zalus Motorsports Lamborghini that Simonini is running has that low, wide nose. And this is a car that, again, I think would be a solid choice here, but no Lamborghinis yet inside the top 5. But in their fairness, they have not yet put a lap in the books. But Foulier, Patterson, South, Goose at the top of the board, McConnell, Sanchez, Bohm, Martineau, Dan Suzuki, and Naga the rest of your top 10.
Yep, as we tick down here with about 6 minutes left to go in qualifying, halfway done. Drivers probably going to be wanting to get a little bit of the draft here around parts of this circuit. And it's going to be a little bit of a balancing act, though, weighing out that aero wash like we talked about at COTA, and then a couple of the other runs around the circuit. You also want to not be backing yourself off coming through, specifically through the S's like we just saw Simonini have to do.
Yeah, full commitment here. The track varies from 60 feet wide all the way down to 32 at the crest of the hill. And that wall on the left that is kind of pushed back a little ways didn't used to be pushed back that far. That was a change from 2004 to 2005 or somewhere thereabouts. Through the carousel now, the high-speed right-hand corner, lots of banking to lead on. Probably a missing feature from a lot of racetracks now is a little bit of camber and banking. It really adds to the corner speeds that you can do in a car. And Simonini still not able to get a representative lap in the books here with 5 minutes remaining on the clock.
Yeah, not all that much time remaining as we see some longer laps around here as they run, but these trains of cars starting to play themselves out, and you can see some of those drivers backing off a little bit, trying to hold themselves back and get some clean air to maybe run. Dan Suzuki being able to put in a good time there, good enough for 10th best.
Yeah, Suzuki sails through turn number 11 and back up onto the front straightaway. And Suzuki initially had the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo, then stepped into the Acura NSX GT3 Evo, and now into the BMW, and jumps up to 5th on the board. And a lot of BMWs and Mercedes AMGs in the mix, and one of the Acuras, Patterson, P3.
Yeah, the BMW pretty good in a straight line. Not entirely surprising that we're seeing it having a good run here around Watkins Glen. Naga now in that right motorsport, number 45 Porsche, doing a good job to try to keep himself up forward and seeing what he can do, running in some clean air. About 2.2 seconds off of your leader of Batfoulier right now, but still some time to be gained.
I have memories coming back to me now from just not even a year ago. Back when I watched this Wright Motorsports Porsche competing in the GT America powered by AWS series, was on pit lane talking to now co-driver Jan Halen in the pits when they were running in second in that race. I was on pit lane for that one here, and man, seeing this in the simulator represented, that's pretty cool. But Wright Motorsports now with, of course, Charlie Luck and Jan Halen in the Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS, the 90-minute sprint series this season. But Naga runs 9th. But Foulier still on top in the number 8 for DXDT Racing, US Racetronics 2nd. And who are some others we haven't talked much about in this particular event? How about Triarzi? There's the number 23.
Yeah, that Assetto Competizione machine is certainly trying to put its way forward there. Denise Pope behind the wheel of the 23 right now. The Ferraris not having the best run out here, although they've had some very, very good luck in real life, having a very, very successful run when we were down in VIR. Those cars looking particularly quick around the circuit, so always good to see them be able to come in there. Ferrari, such a staple in sports car racing across the globe.
So Denise working their way down towards turn number 11. 2 minutes left here in qualifying. And Bobby South has found his way towards the top of the board again. A third quick lap, a 1:44.842. And we do have Maxime Batfoulier in the 43s, a 1:43.7. That's quick.
Yeah, that is very, very quick. Times continuing to be pretty big there for Batfoulier. Really, really holding on to that. Mr. Gitt here in the Ian Lacey Racing Aston Martin number 12, working his way down through the carousel. Good line through the corner. Let's see how wide that's going to run. Could have done to have run that car a little bit wider, but we'll see how this time stacks up.
Tell you what, though, turn 6 that Mr. Gitt's in right now and just leaving, that is a deceptive corner here in the real world. You'd think that you'd want to enter it as far driver's right as possible and arc it in, but the fact is the track falls away from you. So if you stay to driver's right and you just turn in at your normal turn-in point, you're not going to make it. You're going to understeer off track. If you try to turn in early to offset that, you just kind of end up hitting the inside rumble strip and then washing out. There's a very unique entry point to that corner, and it's kind of mid-track. And you'll see drivers kind of stay center track on the entrance at turn 6 to make sure that they can nail that line as the track falls away in that 6th corner. Yeah, one of the very interesting things here around Watkins Glen, some of those entry points, as well as sometimes coming up through turn 9. We talked about that corner a little bit earlier. You've really got to be careful on that. The preferred line isn't necessarily clipping down to that apex curbing as much as you'd think because of the way that the track levels itself back out. You almost want to be a little bit off that to try to carry as much speed as possible through that corner. Yeah, there's a couple places on the racetrack that there's enough track width available that you could use more, but could is not always should at a place like this. And Mr. Gitt a little offline there. Watch the marbles on the right. That could get you into trouble pretty quick. Dan Suzuki clobbers the curbs here in the bus stop, the inner loop, trying to find some time. Last time around ran a 1:45.655, and he's just 1/10 shy of improving so far this lap. Yeah, very good run here for Suzuki, taking advantage of what seems to be a pretty good track here for the BMWs. We haven't really gotten a chance to talk about Dan all that much over the course of this this session here, but he's looking like he's having a good lap time as the checkered flag flies and qualifying is wrapping on up. Yeah, got a little bit of oversteer through turn 7. But now kind of dead even on his best lap so far. We'll see if he can find some time in 8, 9, and 10. And a lot of it comes down to turn 11 and just nailing that exit because you've got that wall on the outside. And that's an area of the racetrack where if they're going to give you, let's say 100 inches, you're going to take 99.8 and try not to scrape the wrap off the side of your car. Dan Suzuki with the Turner Motorsport BMW through turn 10, a good line through there. One corner left on this lap for Suzuki, and again, how close does he get to that wall? Right to it. Across the line, needs to beat a 1:45.547 to advance. A 45.7. It will not be a pickup for Dan Suzuki.
No, it will not. So he's going to stay in at least 8th place as we now get these cars ready to go racing here at Watkins Glen. And really and truly, you know, when we were at COTA, we talked a lot about the ability to fight back, Kyle, and that ability to hold on to the inside line that will become the outside line, that will become the inside line as you go through. And that's really what can happen here pretty much at any point over the course of this Watkins Glen track. Anytime you try to send a move, you've just got to try to hold on to that line because it will switch right on back on you.
Well, this track might have the same track width from wall to wall as the places we were just at, but I don't think that this track has as wide of a racing line. And what I mean by that is if you're going to be side by side with somebody, you better get it sorted out quick. I don't think that the Glen is as conducive to full side-by-side action as the other two tracks we were just running at. And what that can lead to is real problems in places like the S's and in the inner loop. So don't leave that to chance. You should got to cooperate a little bit if you want to come out the other side, especially on the opening lap.
Yeah, you've got to be very, very careful. And as we said, not like there's the runoff at IMS or at COTA. You make an error here at Watkins Glen, and you're going to be getting really friendly with that signature baby blue Armco.
Here's a look at the field getting gridded up now for our third and final race of the day. We've shown you Indianapolis Motor Speedway and Circuit of the Americas. Now it's time for upstate New York's Watkins Glen, a super speedway of road courses. It is extremely, extremely fast, and so much is banking on the run down to turn number 1 and all the way to the inner loop, where I think is where you got to be single filed out. If you're not single filed there and you're still double wide, both of you drivers better be expecting to leave space, because if one thinks they're going to come out the other side, neither will.
Yeah, exactly. Going into that inner loop is very, very tricky, like we talked about a little bit. Again, the S is at COTA, a bit of a one-way street. You've got to be careful, get that move done, and you've got to have respect for the drivers going down into that bus stop chicane, or everything will end in tears.
Great look at the top of the S's there. That wall moved back a couple of years ago. Here's a look at the exit at turn number 10. A little bit of rumble strip to catch you. Beyond that, it's runoff, and that runoff is not fair game to use for passing. It's also extremely bumpy, and I don't think that you're going to have a good time hanging onto the car if you go out there on purpose by any stretch. And then, of course, that inner loop. The curbs are a car width and a half wide, and when you go in there side by side, usually somebody's got to commit to making the orange and yellow part of the racetrack for at least a split second, because the way the track is shaped, you're not going through there door to door unless somebody's 4 tires airborne over the curb.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to be very careful to be able to get it right. And once again, threading that needle. That's what it's all about here at Watkins Glen.
Session is starting, and the race is about to begin. 20 minutes on the board for our final race of the day here, previewing the American DLC, available June 30th for Assetto Corsa Competizione, Indianapolis, Circuit of the Americas, Watkins Glen, and a livery pack including many of the teams and drivers from Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. One car, the pole sitter, Maxime Bafoulier, pulling off to the side. Potentially issues for him as everybody else gets double file and prepares for the start.
Here they come, working their way through the final corners right now, and it is going to be Bafoulier that gets control of this field as they come out of the final corner.
Bafoulier dropped to the rear in turn 10, so it's going to be Bobby South that advances up to the front, and he'll be leading the field to the start-finish line. Side by side, 10 rows deep. Assetto Corsa Competizione at Watkins Glen International. Green flag flies in upstate New York. And the number 6, Danny Gusa, around the outside. He takes the lead into turn 1 south. Tucks in behind. They're 3 abreast into turn 1 behind him. Maybe a little bit of contact there. Just a little bit. The ST Racing car makes a little contact with the Turner Motorsport car as they climb the hill for the first time in the S's.
And we're talking about a little bit of that too wide as they climb up through the S's. That's getting a little bit hairy. The ST Racing and the Turner Motorsports BMW still trying to duke it out there. That's Naga there in that number 45 Wright Motorsports Porsche trying to get interested as well. Hopefully they're going to sort themselves out here before they get into the bus stop. Looks like they're single file. First couple of rows up ahead, but that's a side-by-side up ahead between Patterson and Martineau.
Yeah, Patterson gets it done. 4th place up front, though. The 6 of the 90 going at it. Bobby South trying to close in. A couple cars running a little wide to the backdrop. Some dirt and dust flying around. The 45 has plenty of action out the windshield here. We'll ride on board.
And that is going to be him trying to hold off a little bit of an attack here, able to get it done. As there you can see that ST Racing machine trying to duke its way forward. Everybody going side by side as they run down through the boot.
Oh, big swipe there by the ST Racing car behind. Was that Ben McConnell? No, it was not. It was another one behind as they all kind of scatter. I think it was Vasilakos that dropped because of that, and now swarmed on either side. There's a Bentley there as well.
That's Jardier. Yeah, Jardier picking the Bentley here. A little bit of an unorthodox decision, but we'll have to see how he's able to do there in that number 3 as he tries to get his way forward. Past the 40 contact!
Big crash. The 40 of Vasilakos gets taken out. The Audi as well of Scholes also gets involved, but contact with Jardier in the 40 sends the 40 around. This Bentley representative of the one that Memo Gidley ran in GT America powered by AWS back in 2021. That was a really heartwarming victory for Memo Gidley, getting his first victory in professional competition back at Sebring last year after being sidelined for years after that horrific crash at the 24 Hours of Daytona back in 2014.
Yeah, great story, as you said. But as we watch here, Danny Gusa trying to hold on right now. South closing in behind, side by side here in the back. This is Martineau and Sanchez. Sanchez looking like he's got the legs in that Mercedes-AMG GT3.
Took the spot into the inner loop. Behind him, a little bit of shuffling. Dan Suzuki through the dirt, battling Simonini, who's in the 191. Suzuki gets turned in front of the field and clobbers the barrier on the inside of the carousel, but gets back rolling.
Able to get back rolling there, and a very lucky boy to be able to get that going. Looks like there that Turner Motorsports BMW ran a little bit wide, coming down out of the outer loop. Here comes the Wright Motorsports Porsche fighting back on Simonini in that same Motorsports Lambo. Everything firing off.
Everybody scatters, a push and a shove. The 191 bails out. Simonini now chasing the cars that just made contact with. The 45 slips, and now Suzuki back on the chopping block here for Simonini.
And trying to see what he is able to do. A little bit of a look down to the inside, trying to look this way, and that good late braking maneuver.
That settles for now. Up the road for the lead. It's still Danny Gusa, Bobby South, and Kevin Bohm. Patterson spins and crashes out of turn 9. Everybody scatters, more contact. Big hits there. I think that was the 39 of McConnell. Both ST cars involved. Everybody tries to shoot the gap now as the cars scatter in turn 10.
Yeah, and we talked about just how easy it is to be able to spin those tires coming up over turn 9, and that's exactly there what happened. Just got onto the throttle a little bit early for Patterson. That car slipping around on him. Let's take a look at that replay. You can see there, just tries to dive it in there a little bit, gets it going a little bit too much, kicks out some understeer actually, and that spat him right back into the Armco.
Yeah, then it's just pinball. Everybody trying to find a way around. This next group tries to shoot the gap, and they just couldn't quite make it work there. That was a frustrating way for some of those drivers to get pushed out. But up in front, let's update you on our lead fight. Danny Gusa and Bobby South competing for the top spot here in the inner loop and now into the carousel. 0.2 of a second between these two.
Yeah, and South doing a very good job to be able to close in on the back of that Mercedes. Going to get a prime helping of the draft here as they fly their way down. Well, that's a big slide for Gusa.
Man, he gathered it up somehow. That was something out of Formula D there for a moment, but he held on to it. This is representative of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS Championship in the esports world here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. But that was a lot of steering lock that Danny had to keep that car from going around. And Bobby South keeping the pressure on, overshoots turn 8.
And that's an easy thing to do when you're locked up into a battle like that. You just kind of miss your braking zone. And even despite the fact that there is that paved runoff on the outside, you've got to be very, very careful there because it can throw you off. But all of that battling up in front, look what it's allowed to do here for Kevin Bohm, Kyle. He's starting to close in on the back of the leaders.
Kevin Bohm in the CrowdStrike Racing by Riley Motorsports Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. Again, Bohm is a real-life competitor in SRO America competition in the TC America powered by Skip Barber Racing School. 2020 champion in the TCA class and 2021 runner-up in TC, currently leading the standings in that category. I'm sure he'd like to be leading the standings here today, but has to catch the two ahead.
Well, he's been able to take about 1/10 of a second out of them as they ran, and I've got to think with the battling we're probably going to continue to see between Gusa and South that we will certainly see that number 4 CrowdStrike by Riley Motorsports machine certainly be able to close in more.
Just absolute sends into the inner loop by Gusa and South, trying to carry as much speed as possible. Well, all this is going on behind Dan Suzuki. There's a bit of a fight formulating. Look, there's some side-by-side. Jardier and I think that's the 10th place car, the 8 of Maxime Betfoulier, who started to tail the field after dropping from pole. This is a great fight for P10. Around the outside, who came from where? Well, is that the 1 car?
That is the 1 car. That Sherritt, I think, lost some positions there. Maybe have touched the grass going down into that contact.
Oh, Betfoulier slips up in front of Jardier, and everybody scatters. They're 2 by 2 heading down towards the toe.
Indeed they are. Noah's Ark as they go down into the corner there. Who's going to be able to come out ahead? It does look like that Betfoulier is going to be able to hold out over Jardier. The number 1 trying to hold on now as they run. Looking to the inside on a defensive line is Jardier. Is he going to be able to hold off that K-Pax Racing Lamborghini? Yes, I think so, but that's going to be Pope sending a little bit of a move down to the inside.
Triarzi versus K-Pax. This is a battle of the centuries. Also K-Pax again moving to the Lamborghini Huracan platform. They used to compete in those Bentley Continental GT3s, so that's a bit of a look back into the history of the series. Lamborghini versus Bentley, Jardier in 10th, Sherritt in 11th, and up front, while this has been happening, they're still nose to tail here at the front of the field. US Racetronics and Turner Motorsport. This looks identical to what we will likely see in a couple of weeks here at Watkins Glen International.
Yes, it most certainly is. These are 2 of the silver class cars as they run. And look behind there, Kevin Bohm losing a little bit of time to these leaders. He's dropped about a second, so maybe a little bit of an error. Side by side here in the back, though.
Simonini clears a couple of cars fighting for position. Samir, and I think that's, who else is that? Ben McConnell, the 39, indeed it is. And McConnell losing some ground here to the 2 as they go nose to nose into the inner loop. Who's going to beat him there? Wow.
That was Simonini very, very late and brave on the brakes, able to get that move done. Ooh, a little bit of a check up there for McConnell as the Ferrari got a little bit squirrely going through the carousel.
Now down towards the boot, the section added in the 1970s to add some length to the circuit, and it added some thrills and spills with it. Simonini now up to 5th place.
Simonini up into 5th. He's going to be looking to try to extend that gap a little bit right now over the 13 if he is able to do so. Looks like he got a better run there coming out of the toe. Now as he dives down into the heel, this is the part of the track where maybe that Lamborghini can be able to pull away a little bit, but look how good on the binders there that Triarzi Competizione machine is.
Again, both Italian, both mid-engine, both rear-wheel drive. Again, as I've mentioned a couple of times, that's where the similarity ends. V8 turbo versus V10 naturally aspirated in the Lamborghini. And boy, does that Lamborghini sound like something.
Yeah, it certainly does. It sounds like exactly what you expect a Lamborghini to sound like, if that makes any sense at all. It's always a very, very distinctive car to hear when you roar on by.
Little mistake, understeer that turned into oversteer for Simonini. Through turn 1, though, keeps Samir at bay. A little wide on the edge of the rumble strip. That's a little naughty. Got to keep all 4 tires in the boundaries there as you set yourself up for that climb up the hill. But this group now single file. The leaders still at threat of becoming opposite runners here in a moment. Big curb jump for Danny, and here comes South with a big run to the outside, and he makes a bobble in the carousel.
Yeah, a little bit of a bobble, but he's going to be hoping to carry a little bit of momentum with that later apex down into the corner. Good run there out of the carousel. He's just trying to keep the pressure up in that number 90 to see what he can do, see if he can force an error out of Gusa and that number 6 US Racetronics machine.
They continue to fight. Big sends from South to close the gap here in the toe of the boot. He's within striking distance, but he's going to have to make the decision to go for the dive very quickly. Let's bring you back to Dan Suzuki. There's a bit of a car scrapping in the background, a couple vehicles going for a ride. And looks like Jardier, Jordan Sherritt, and Naga all fighting for 9th place.
Yeah, good scrap there, and you can see everybody starting to fan themselves out a little bit. Naga going on a defensive line there, trying to hold off Jardier as much as possible. Jardier is going to be a little bit better on the brakes there, going down into the corner. That's going to give him some momentum around the outside of the preferred line coming up through turn 9.
Side by side, Bentley versus Porsche. That's probably an unlikely duo. Here comes the Lamborghini. This is the diversity represented in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. Now on June 30th, available to drive at Assetto Corsa Competizione. You too can have this battle that we're seeing here today, just like the one we're seeing at the front. Mercedes-AMG versus BMW. US Racetronics versus Turner.
And this is exactly the battle that we saw play itself out down in NOLA, Kyle. And so not surprising to see these two drivers at the head of the field, these two cars in particular at the head of the field, continuing to drop time to Kevin Bohm, which is good news for them. That means they're just going to be able to keep this battle going in and amongst themselves.
On the brakes. Not for long, though. They're really just tapping the brakes, downshifting once or twice to settle the car, and then you're just launching over the curbs. But I'll tell you what, Bobby South is keeping Danny honest here, making sure he's looking in the mirror and not out the windshield. Here comes the send into turn 6, they touch.
Oh, contact there, and that's going to put some tempers a little bit towards boiling point, I think, but still close enough here to be able to hold on is Danny Gusa as they run again a late dive there for South going down through the toe.
There's 8 minutes left, and you don't win anything by winning this race, but you'd think that you're giving these guys a real ride in the series by how hard they're racing. They're certainly leaving it all out there. Maxime Betfoulier, we documented, was supposed to start on pole, now buried in 7th, looking for 6th, though, on Ben McConnell up towards turn 8. This will be an easy one.
Yeah, good little crossover maneuver there, going down out of the toe, now into the heel, just later on the binders there in that number 8, and move him up on by.
So Betfoulier up to 6th place now, actually into 5th once that pass is complete. And a moment of breathing, because I think that was our closest battle for the time being, other than the one for the top spot. 7 minutes and 30 seconds to go here at Watkins Glen. And South within feet of the race leader.
Yeah, trying to close in, but it is one of those things that you can look, but you better not touch. He's just trying to get as close as possible, and thus, up to this point, Danny Gusa doing an absolutely spectacular job of being able to keep that BMW at bay.
Now onto the back straightaway. This is where that Mercedes-AMG has been really solid in comparison to this BMW, stretching the gap a little bit, but then the inner loop, that's where Bobby makes a lot of his time back. This big send. Look at the time that he closes there. Closes the car length, maybe 2 by the exit, and then now into the carousel. It's all about the balance of these front-engine, rear-wheel drive sports cars here, and they are representations of some of the best vehicles in the world, and in GT3 form, I'd say that they've got to be pretty close.
Yeah, very, very close. And again, let's keep an eye here on Bobby South, see if he's able to be later on the binders going down into the toe. Again, just Constantining up there behind that US Racetronics number 6. A very, very close battle.
Yeah, I think the BMW is a touch better on the brakes, either that or Bobby South is better on the brakes. But at the moment, Danny has been out front for the last several minutes and doesn't really show much signs of slowing his pace down, but I think it's going to take a send from Bobby to get the job done on the brakes late into turn 1 or the inner loop or at turn 7 where he tried it previously, turn 6 rather.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to get a little bit creative to be able to get anything on by here, as it just doesn't look like that that BMW is able to get the attack he wants into some of the normal areas, and that combined with the fact that Danny Gusa once again just driving an absolutely spectacular defensive race.
Running out of laps though, 5 minutes to go. The laps take just shy of 2, so maybe 3 laps left at this point. So you're running out of opportunities. Kevin Bohm has got his own racetrack around him, but let's jump back again to Dan Suzuki and Jardier. Dan is in the 91, that's the BMW. Here comes Jardier in the Bentley Continental, but the big thundering green machine running in 8th right now.
Yeah, doing a good job to get its way up through the field for Jardier. I've got to say, I'm a little bit
Spin
impressed.
in front of him.
Spin! Oh my goodness!
That was Kevin Bohm out of 3rd place.
And I'm not sure if there was any contact. That just looked like a solo spin there. The rear end just breaking away from Bohm.
That was kind of bizarre. Not exactly sure what was up with that, but Kevin Bohm out of 3rd place, out of a potential podium, is stuck now in the pits. Gusa and South still nose to tail for the lead though, far from over.
Far from over indeed, and there's a little bit of a move there from Bobby South, looking down to the inside of the toe, not going to be able to send it. He knows he's better on the binders there, but I think he may do himself a little bit of service here if he tries to back himself up coming through the boot and try to get a really good run here.
US Racetronics versus Turner Motorsport. If you're in the area close to Watkins Glen within 5 or 6 hours, consider buying yourself some tickets, because I bet you the battle that you'll see in real life at Watkins Glen and Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS will be just as good, if not better. And it'll probably look identical to this.
Yeah, most likely Will is up in that silver class category. As we said, it's been just fantastic battles the entire season long between the K-Pax Racing Lamborghinis, Turner Motorsports BMW, and this US Racetronics Mercedes. Some really, really good stuff, and some elbows out racing of the past 4 rounds, but we'll have to see what happens when we get to Watkins Glen. Jumping back in the field a little bit, Bafoulier having a little bit of a run here on that number 13 Assetto Competizione Ferrari.
This is now for a podium spot with Kevin Bohm in the pits. Foulier to the inside. Again, not exactly sure if it was a problem or a choice to drop to the rear of the field on the initial start, but now working his way back into the podium spot alongside a Triarzi Ferrari. And now the long drag race to the inner loop. Speeds north of 165 miles an hour, and now it's a daring game into the inner loop.
Yes, it is. And who's going to be later on to the binders? They are barely the number 13 able to keep himself ahead. Samir doing a great job.
And not too far behind as these two ramp up their rivalry. Ben McConnell in the ST Racing car is closing in.
Yes, he is, and both drivers there up front having a little bit of a wide run going down through the laces of the boot, and that is a lot for McConnell to catch right back up behind. He's going to look to the outside there of the toe, tries to be a little bit later on the binders, holding it out there over Bafoulier in that DXDT Racing Mercedes, not able to get it done.
In the mix, though, 3-horse race for 3rd place at the moment. You could throw another car in there. You see Jardier just beyond the shot, and more behind. Dan Suzuki of the 91 lurking in the background as well. But Bafoulier tries the outside here into turn 9. That's an unorthodox maneuver here, but maybe if he can keep it alongside, he can complete the pass at turn 11. But I don't like this form outside of turn 10. That's hard to hang on to.
Yes, it is, and you can see that Mercedes just kind of screaming out for grip, and that's going to open up the door there for behind for McConnell to close back in. And look at this, all of this battling has allowed for Jardier, Suzuki, Pope, all to close back into the back.
The battle up front is 2/10 apart, but the battle for 3rd is bigger. Samir under fire from Bafoulier. Behind him, 4 more drivers that want a podium spot. McConnell runs out wide over the edge of the rumble strip. Now they climb up the hill as a pack, swarming each other here at Watkins Glen.
2 by 2, Noah's Ark style, coming up through the S's. They decide to back out of it and go back single file. Everybody trying to get a little bit of a hint of the draft as they work their way up and around. Bafoulier leading the way. Here comes the Ferrari looking to the outside. Same with the Bentley there from Jardier in the back.
Are they going to do this again? This time, Baffoulier's got the advantage, and he'll keep it. Samir not able to complete the pass. I think that was Suzuki that went for a ride in the dirt for a moment in the Turner Motorsport car. Here's what it looks like out the windshield here. Sun setting in upstate New York, and it's a scrap here for 3rd place.
It certainly is, and I think for these drivers, it's going to be 1 to go at the line, so not a lot of time for them to sort everything out, but they are going to be fighting tooth and nail, trying to see if they are able to get those couple of positions up ahead.
Oh, look out. This is a tight squeeze there with ST Racing and Triarzi. Maybe a little bit of paint trading. There's some sparks flying. Jardier sees it and scampers in the Bentley to the inside. They drag race up towards turn 8 now. Suzuki's got a big run. What's he going to do with it? Take him 3 abreast into turn 8.
Oh, that's an aggressive move from Dan Suzuki, and he knows that he's going to back off there a little bit as they run down into the corner. But they're going to sort themselves out back into single file order, trying to see what can happen here coming through turn 9. That tricky corner, running themselves out wide.
Well, they've got that at least somewhat sorted. White flag this time through as up front, US Racetronics and Turner Motorsport lead the way. 11, now 10 turns remain in Bobby South's attempt to get by the race leader. He's a little further back than he was previously, but maybe building a run so that he can catch those front group.
Yeah, he's going to try to get as much of a toe as he can. And remember, we talked a little bit about Bobby South maybe wanting to back himself up, going through the boot in particular as a way to try to get a good run. We're going to have to see if that BMW's got the legs to be able to do it, and if Goose is going to be able to keep up that fantastic defense we've seen him running this whole time.
I thought it was going to be turn 6, but a little too aggressive. He had to stomp on the brakes. It slowed him down. I think he might have used up his opportunities, at least the easy ones to grab. And for now, he will stay put. The rest of the others have sort of stayed in line, so I think we can focus up front. I thought they would reignite their battle, but DJ, half a lap left, and South is close, but no cigar.
Yeah, overran that corner just a little bit going through the toe. You can see his kind of instinct to diamond off the corner a little bit, but that necessarily didn't work out for him. And now as we dive down into the heel, I think time is running out and chances are very, very slim here for Bobby South.
Couple corners left. It is possible to pass for the win in the last 2 corners. It is not easy. You got to be a little bit closer than this. The number 6, US Racetronics. I think the team, if they're watching, is sitting at home prepping for their trip to Watkins Glen and hoping that this is foreshadowing US Racetronics in Assetto Corsa Competizione and Danny Gusa for the first time as they come to the line. The number 6 Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo is victorious at upstate New York, and the win goes to the 6 at Watkins Glen. Bobby South second, Maxime Bafoulier third, Samir in 4th, and Jardier right behind Samir in 5th. This will be a close battle. Here they come. Drag race to the line here, DJ.
And I don't know if that Bentley's going to have the legs over the Ferrari, and indeed, it looks like Samir's going to be able to take that 4th place position away from Jardier, McConnell, and Suzuki, rounding out that battle that we were keeping our eye on through the rest of the field.
Mr. Gett didn't have quite as good of a race as he did at Circuit of the Americas in his Ian Lacey Racing Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3. He will limp a damaged Aston Martin back to 11th place. And for Kevin Boehm, ending the race on pit lane, that is a bummer. With the race that he had, there's Zach Patterson, who's a lap down. Kevin Boehm was going to be on podium and ended up crashed. Drivers completing their race, but Watkins Glen is the last track in the American Track Pack 4. The American DLC, available June 30th for Assetto Corsa Competizione. But DJ, what we've seen today is that folks that play Assetto Corsa Competizione have a lot of really fun track time on their hands at these 3 great American circuits.
Yes, indeed, they do. The whole plethora of GT3 action here for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, at your disposal once this track pack goes live. 3 amazing circuits, 3 completely different circuits, but all representing some of the best that North America has to offer.
Make sure that you go to the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS website. Get yourself some tickets because Watkins Glen's coming up here shortly the next couple of weeks. And make sure you visit yourself and get autographs and spend a weekend under the sun in July in upstate New York. It's an absolutely beautiful time. COTA will hopefully return to our calendar sometime soon, but of course, the season will end in October in the real world with the famous Indianapolis 8-hour DJ. We got to see the Indianapolis road course here at Assetto Corsa Competizione. It put on a great race. I'm sure it will this season as well when we head there in October to finish out the 2022 year.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic to see cars returning to the famed Brickyard to run that road course for the Indianapolis 8-hour. And in Watkins Glen, as you said, just in a couple of weeks' time away. So if you are in the upstate New York area, make sure to get your way up to the track, as we are sure to be putting on a great show.
Well, that's going to do it for the preview for the Assetto Corsa Competizione America DLC. Indianapolis, Circuit of the Americas, and Watkins Glen, available June 30th. Pick it up, and make sure you pick up those brand new skins as well for the 2022 Fanatec GT World Challenge America fields, and compete with the cars you see on the track. We'll see you next time here on GT World.